Hi, welcome to the Wednesday Project. My name is Rick, and I'm here with Quinn and we're here to talk a little bit about PR.
Yep.
So, give me a little bit of history. What is PR?
Yeah, sure. Well, PR in a sense is public relations. So it's really a way of going out and engaging with members of the press to communicate your message, whether it's a message about your company, your corporate entity, it could be a brand, it could be about a new or existing product.
Strategies around using a PR agent. What's the difference between that and, say, as an independent?
Sure. Well, certainly. I mean, I think hiring an agency that is full of executives who are experienced in what they do as a profession. That's how we make our living. So we develop expertise in that field. All that translates to is an understanding of how media works. So our relationships with press, it's not just about having lunch so they will cover a press announcement for you. All this time that we spend in doing research about our respective markets, the clients that operate in the space where we develop an expertise, and we understand what the market's looking for, what are press looking for, how do we need to write it, and how do we need to write things so that press can take it and find it useful and formulate their own opinions or write stories. Keeping our finger on the pulse of the industry itself, so knowing what's going on in the consumer market, so that we do work with press in a way that we can help them craft stories that speak to their audience, so that they get the traffic and the returns from spending the time in creating those stories. A lot of our expertise also comes with you could certainly write a press release and distribute it through PR Web or any number of third-party wire services out there. And that's recommended rather than doing nothing. You don't want to throw a brand or a product out there and hope it just kind of does well. People will start formulating their own opinions, and the messaging will spiral out of control. It won't work. You have to put a press release out that's full of facts, that serves as a reference point. What we do is ensure that it's drafted in a way that it contains your key messages. So even before we do that, we analyze the company. We get to know the company through and through. We become one with the company, really. We get to know the client as much as possible. And we match that, pair it up with what's happening in the market. And we say, all right, well, here are the key points that people are going to care about. Here are the key messages that we need to go out and talk to the public about. A lot of times that drills down to just 5 simple bullet points to keep things simple. So even if we're in an interview, we can relate back to that. But that also translates into media documentation that we might prepare, press kits, a fact sheet that press would use as a reference point whenever they are looking to write a story. But also the press release itself. Press release drafting gets, I've had many entrepreneurs and executives come to me and just not have the confidence in their writing abilities. They're entrepreneurs, they're executives, they're trying to run a business. They could throw a hell of a PR or a business plan together. But when it comes to drafting a press release and getting it in the right hands, that's a whole nother story. And that's what we do on a full-time basis.
I hear so much about just getting the tagline right.
The tagline itself, I mean, we think of it, you think of it in a way of, or an entrepreneur or an executive thinks of it who doesn't do PR at all, who might write up their own press release, thinks of it in a way of, all right, I got to get the word out there. You need to make it appear in as many places as possible. And that's fine, getting your own messages out there. But the way we think about it as PR professionals is here's what's going on in the media space, based on how we've worked with press in the past and similar clients, and how we know press releases work. And I know that this reporter is getting 500 email messages in his inbox. He's going through this, and he sees my name and email that comes from me. Hopefully it has a compelling subject line that makes him want to click. Because looking for stories, they're going to click them. All right, I'm going to look through this. All right, I've read it. It takes about a half a second to read it before they move on and hit delete. So the subject line even is very important, and then how that leads into the introduction about what is the news. Give that straight up. Get rid of all the fluff. It's not a consumer marketing channel. A press release, that's one misunderstanding of a press release. It's not a way to go out there and talk to consumers. A press release is a means to communicating with members of the press. It's getting them factual information at the time of the newsworthy, something that we feel they deem newsworthy. Getting them the appropriate information, it's factually based, that they can go and formulate their own stories and their own opinions about what's going on.
So when you say press is general, wrapping up news agencies,
magazines, radio, television, podcasts, blogs, all that. Essentially what it comes down to, or at least where we like to focus our attention to get the most bang for the buck for our clients and for ourselves, just as your assignment, is focusing on those members of the press, reporters, journalists, bloggers these days with no audience. We'll consider ourselves journalists as well, but even those types we also include in our outreach. And just pulling all that together to say, here's the target audience. Now, how do we go out and speak to them? How do we use communications as a vehicle to engage them and get the information they need so they can write their stories? So it really covers the gamut. It really comes down to knowing the client, knowing their business goals, what are their needs, how can we help them achieve those goals by engaging the right members of the press, whether it is a blogger with a very small but enthusiastic and highly targeted audience, or a consumer mainstream outlet that has a huge audience, but maybe the draw isn't so much about the specific niche.
It's kind of more, with you guys, it'd be working on the marriage, figuring out what's going to be the best channels.
Exactly. So not all members of the press make sense, and that's also part of that's another major misunderstanding is that I think a lot of executives or a lot of people that look at PR in a bad light, it has gotten a bad reputation. I think for people who don't do their job right, for people who go out and spam, who just go throw anything and everything out there and hope that the big publications cover it. It turns into spam. You're filling up reporters' inbox. Our job is to know what the reporter is writing on and creating a very highly targeted list of press contacts that we feel will cover an announcement and go in and getting them the information to helping them do their jobs a lot easier. We're helping them do their jobs easier. We're getting them stories that drives traffic. Traffic delivers advertising, which is payday.
So everybody's helping everybody.
Everybody's helping everybody, and I think that's what the marriage should be. Unfortunately, there are bad PR people who don't do their jobs and they're not targeting appropriately, and it can spiral out of control. But I think that's sort of the big value there. It's just not just having lunch with press contacts. The relationships are built by helping them get them the stories that their audience is looking for, knowing what they write about, pitching them properly, and getting them the appropriate information in a timely manner. And the relationship blossoms out of that, and it becomes a successful working relationship, and that's just because we're doing our job well, and because that's what we do day in and day out.
So do you have any success stories that you have that you can talk about?
Yeah, sure. So I think maybe the tech online startup space would be something we can touch on. Seems to be relevant for your audience. So I could say that we had a fashion clothing line that was born out of dorm rooms. Where's men's pants, a company called Bonobos. And it's all about just the fit. The pants fit very, very well. It's amazing. I had a problem finding pants for myself. I'm a pretty slender guy. I didn't believe it at first either, but I got myself a pair, and they're awesome. I highly recommend everybody get themselves a pair of Bonobos. They're awesome, really. But the company, they had announced, they had already started. They already had a great-looking website, exclusively online retail, which in the fashion world is unheard of. I mean, you got to get in brick and mortar. You got to go get yourself in Barney's, or try to get yourself established in a boutique, build up a brand. Then you set up your own retail store and you go. These guys were like, hey, you know what? Screw that. We're just going to go straight online. We're going to get pants that fit to guys who don't want to go to the store and shop with their girlfriends. So I don't know if that's exactly the story, but it's something along those lines. And they were quite successful in doing it. They built up awareness just through a successful product. They did some of their own PR by getting out there and talking. But there came a point where they had $18 million to announce in funding. How are they going to do that? How are they going to write the press release? How are you going to really go out there, and how are you going to attack the appropriate audiences for that? The guys who wear those pants, $18 million, great, but what does that mean to me? You want to go out, and that becomes a corporate story. So how do you build brand value for your company?
So we're shifting from saying there's in PR, you can go at a marketing angle, you can go at a product angle, you could even go after officers and corporate staff. And now you're talking about this is marketing for venture capital, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there's product PR, which the pants, or for the pants, which we did a little bit of that too. But that had done success with for some time, had a successful product. And now it's we're looking at specifically a corporate messaging standpoint. So how do we go and talk? How do we engage press with this information? $18 million is a big chunk of change, especially in the fashion world. For a company that's only doing online retail, it's a huge story. So when we had the discussion, that's a great story. That's something we need to go out and tell. How do we formulate a plan to go out and speak to the top tier business enthusiast press, or the business press, the tech enthusiast press as well, but also get the interest of fashion press, because this ties back to the industry and what's happening, especially with digital media. So that was a huge success for us. We went out, we announced it, we placed exclusives, we got huge interviews with all the main big business publications, and that was a massive undertaking. It was a huge success. On the other end, we've had products.